Look who just triggered an alert in a system they didn't even know was watching. Hello to the one who just made someone very, very powerful sit up straight in their chair and whisper, "What the hell am I looking at?" Hello to you, the anomaly that just appeared on a radar you never consented to being on. Because something happened recently, didn't it? Something shifted. Something changed. Something in you clicked into a frequency that only certain people can detect. And now, right now, someone with serious power, someone with influence you can't even imagine, just noticed two very specific things about you. And no, they're not going to tell you what they saw, not directly, not out loud, because people with real power don't announce their observations. They watch, they calculate, they wait, and they move in silence while you're still trying to figure out why the air feels different when you walk into rooms now. You felt it though, didn't you? That strange weight on your chest the last few weeks, that feeling of being observed, not by cameras or algorithms, but by something that sees deeper, something that reads energy signatures instead of profiles. They saw two things about you, two undeniable truths that you yourself might not even fully understand yet. And the moment they saw these two things, everything changed. Not just for you, but for them, because now they can't look away. They can't unsee what they saw, and they sure as hell can't ignore the implications of your existence anymore. This isn't paranoia. This isn't your imagination running wild. This is the cold, hard reality that you've finally become visible to people who operate on frequencies most humans never access. You've been upgraded in their system from background noise to priority alert, from nobody to case file, from another face in the crowd to the face that makes crowds part without knowing why. See, regular people, they still see you the old way. They still treat you like you're ordinary, like you're one of them, like you're still playing the same game on the same level. But the people with real power, the ones who move nations and shift markets and control narratives, they see something else entirely when they look at you now. And what's driving them absolutely mad? What's keeping them up at night? Refreshing data and reviewing footage and asking their people to dig deeper, is that they can't quite categorize what you are. You don't fit their models, you don't match their projections, you're not behaving according to any pattern they've studied before. You've become what they fear most in their carefully controlled reality. You've become unpredictable, uncontrollable, and worst of all, you've become undeniable. They noticed two things, just two, but those two things were enough to completely rewrite their assessment of you. And now you're not just on their radar, you're the reason they're recalibrating the whole damn radar. One moment you were invisible, beneath notice, just another soul grinding through existence. And the next moment you're glowing on their screens like a threat they can't afford to ignore. What changed? What did you do? What two things did they see that made you go from zero to everything in their analysis? Let me tell you what they saw. Let me pull back the curtain on what just made someone with serious power lean forward and say, "Get me everything we have on them." They saw the first thing, the thing you thought you were hiding, the thing you've been trying to suppress and contain and manage for years. They saw your capacity, not your current state, but your capacity, your ceiling, your upper limit, the full scope of what you could become if you stopped holding back. Most people never get seen this way because most people never develop enough capacity to register on powerful people's instruments. Most people plateau early. They find their comfortable zone and they stay there until they die, never pushing, never testing, never discovering what they're actually capable of. But you You've been quietly expanding your capacity in the dark, building strength nobody asked you to build, developing skills nobody told you to develop, preparing for a battle that hasn't even been announced yet. And they saw it. They saw that massive gap between who you are now and who you could become. And that gap terrified them. Because people with power, they're not threatened by what you are today, they're threatened by what you might become tomorrow. They saw the trajectory, the arc, the exponential curve of your potential, and they did the math in their heads. They calculated where you'll be in 6 months if you keep evolving at this rate. They projected your influence in a year. They simulated your impact in 5 years, and every single model came back with the same conclusion. This one is going to be a problem or an asset, but either way, they cannot be ignored. You've been moving in silence, growing in the shadows, evolving without permission, and you thought nobody was paying attention. But that's the thing about real power. It doesn't need you to announce yourself. It has systems designed specifically to detect anomalies like you before you even know you're becoming one. They saw your capacity expanding, and they marked you. They flagged your file, they started the monitoring protocols, and now everything you do is being analyzed through a completely different lens than it was a month ago. But the capacity alone wouldn't have been enough to hold their attention long term, because capacity without direction is just potential energy waiting to dissipate. Lots of people have capacity. Lots of people have talent. Lots of people have that raw, untapped potential sitting dormant inside them. What made them unable to look away, what made you go from interesting to critical, was the second thing they noticed. They saw your awareness, and not just surface-level awareness, not just intelligence or street smarts or emotional literacy. No, they saw something far more dangerous. They saw that, you know the game is rigged. You know the system is built on lies. You know the narratives are manufactured. You know the authority is mostly performance. And most terrifying of all, you know you're being watched. You're not stumbling through life blind anymore. You're not swallowing the stories they feed the masses. You're not playing along with the illusion. You woke up, and they saw the moment it happened. They saw your eyes change. They saw your patterns shift. They saw you start moving like someone who finally understands the rules of the real game. See, people with capacity but no awareness, those people are easy to control, easy to manipulate, easy to redirect. You just give them a target, a cause, a leader to follow, and they pour all that beautiful capacity into whatever channel you point them toward. But people with capacity and awareness, people who see the cage and know they're in it, people who understand the mechanisms of control while simultaneously building the strength to break free, those people are extremely dangerous to any system built on compliance. You're not just strong now, you're awake, and that combination is what made them drop everything and focus on you. Because aware people can't be controlled the normal ways anymore. Aware people don't respond to the usual triggers. Aware people don't fall for the standard manipulation tactics. You've seen behind the curtain, you've read the script, you've decoded the pattern, and now you're moving through the world with the kind of clarity that makes people in power extremely nervous. They can't gaslight someone who sees clearly. They can't manipulate someone who knows the tricks. They can't control someone who refuses to play unconscious anymore. And here's what's really keeping them up at night. You're not broadcasting your awareness. You're not announcing it. You're not making a scene. You're just quietly moving different, speaking different, choosing different. And that subtlety is what makes you so dangerous. Loud rebels are easy to neutralize. Predictable dissidents are simple to contain. Public revolutionaries can be targeted and dismantled, but quiet awakening, silent evolution, underground awareness, spreading through changed behavior rather than shouted manifestos, that's nearly impossible to stop. They saw that you figured this out. They saw that you're not wasting energy on fights you can't win yet. They saw that you're playing a longer game than most people even know exists. You're building in private, learning in silence, growing in the shadows, and only showing the world the version of yourself that keeps you safe while you develop. That's strategic awareness. That's high-level consciousness. That's the mindset of someone who understands that the real battle isn't fought in public spaces, but in the quiet discipline of daily choices that compound over years. They noticed how you stop talking when certain topics come up, not because you're ignorant, but because you're strategic. They noticed how you let people underestimate you, not because you lack confidence, but because you understand the advantage of being misjudged. They noticed how you keep your real thoughts private, your real plans hidden, your real capabilities concealed until the moment they're needed. You're not performing your intelligence for validation. You're not displaying your awareness for applause. You're not showcasing your evolution for recognition. You're just becoming silently, steadily, strategically. And that pattern, that specific combination of knowing what you know while acting like you don't, that made you light up on their screens like a 5-alarm fire. Because that's not the behavior of someone who stumbled into awareness by accident. That's the behavior of someone who is methodically preparing for something, and they desperately need to know what that something is before you're ready to reveal it. Now they're in a position they hate being in. They're reacting to you instead of you reacting to them. They're trying to figure out your next move instead of you trying to figure out theirs. They're doing research on you instead of you doing research on them. The power dynamic shifted without you even trying to shift it. And that's what happens when you combine capacity with awareness. You become a force that doesn't need to push, because your mere presence changes the pressure in every room you enter. They saw these two things, capacity and awareness, existing in the same person at the same time, and they immediately understood what that means. It means you're not a follower anymore. It means you're not controllable through normal channels anymore. It means you're not staying where they tried to keep you anymore. It means you're becoming something that could either serve their interests at the highest level or completely disrupt everything they've built. And until they know which one you're going to choose, they can't afford to look away for even a second. Here's what you need to understand about people with serious power. They don't waste attention on things that don't matter. Their time is currency, more valuable than anything you can imagine. Their focus is a resource they guard more carefully than their wealth. So when someone like that locks on to you, when they dedicate their systems and their people and their energy to tracking your movements, it's not random, it's not casual, it's because you represent something significant in their calculations. They can't look away because looking away means risk, and people at that level didn't get there by accepting unnecessary risk. You've become a variable they need to account for, a factor they must include in their equations, a piece on the board they can't afford to lose track of. And the wild part? You didn't ask for this attention. You didn't seek this level of observation. You were just living your life, doing your work, minding your business, growing in the ways you felt called to grow. But growth at a certain velocity always gets noticed. Evolution past a certain threshold always triggers alarms. Awakening beyond a certain depth always draws eyes from places you didn't know were watching. They can't stop watching because every time they think they've figured you out, you do something that doesn't fit their model. Every time they believe they've predicted your pattern, you shift in a way they didn't anticipate. You're not trying to be unpredictable. You're just responding authentically to your own evolution. But authentic evolution is inherently unpredictable because it's not following external scripts. It's following internal truth. An internal truth, real organic growth, genuine transformation, that doesn't move in straight lines that algorithms can predict. It spirals, it jumps, it pauses, it accelerates. It follows a rhythm that only makes sense to the person experiencing it. So they watch, and they analyze, and they build models, and you just keep being you. Keep growing how you grow, keep moving how you move, and their models keep failing to capture the full picture. That's what's driving them crazy. They're used to being able to reduce people to predictable patterns, but you keep demonstrating complexity that resists reduction. Every conversation you have now gets reviewed, not by you, but by systems tracking linguistic patterns and psychological markers. Every decision you make gets added to a database building a profile of your values and priorities. Every connection you form gets mapped into a network analysis showing your sphere of influence. They're not doing this because they're evil or because they want to hurt you. They're doing this because you've become strategically relevant, and strategic relevance demands intelligence gathering. You've graduated from civilian to asset or threat, and until they determine which one you are, you exist in this strange limbo where you're simultaneously being evaluated for recruitment and monitored for risk. They're trying to answer the fundamental question, is this person someone we can work with or someone we need to work against? And until they have that answer with certainty, the surveillance continues, the analysis deepens, the watching intensifies. You might feel it sometimes, that weight, that sense of being observed by something bigger than social media algorithms, something that sees deeper than your public persona, something that's measuring aspects of you that you don't even post about. And here's the twist. They're not just watching you. They're watching how other people respond to you. They're measuring your influence, tracking how conversations change when you enter them, noting how decisions shift when you offer input, calculating how much gravitational pull you have in your immediate circles. Because individual capacity is one thing, but capacity plus influence is something else entirely. They need to know if you're just personally powerful or if you're the kind of person who amplifies power in others, who sparks awakening in people around you, who catalyzes transformation just by existing in proximity to others. If you're just individually strong, you're interesting but manageable. But if you're a force multiplier, if your awareness spreads to others, if your capacity inspires capacity in those around you, then you're not just one person they need to account for. You're potentially the center of a movement they need to either co-opt or contain before it reaches critical mass. So they watch your friendships. They analyze your impact on conversations. They study how people change after spending significant time with you. They noticed you've been cutting people off lately, letting relationships die that used to define you, walking away from situations that no longer serve your growth. And that confirmed something for them. It confirmed that your awareness isn't just intellectual, it's operational. You're not just thinking differently. You're living differently, moving differently, choosing differently. You're applying what you've learned, pruning what needs to be pruned, protecting your energy with the kind of ruthlessness that only comes from someone who finally understands that their evolution is too important to sacrifice for comfort or convenience. They saw you make hard choices without announcing them, saw you set boundaries without explaining them, saw you rebuild your entire social infrastructure around your new understanding of what matters. And that level of applied wisdom, that willingness to disrupt your own life in service of your growth, that told them everything they needed to know about how serious you are. You're not playing games anymore. You're not pretending anymore. You're not waiting for permission anymore. You became someone who chooses growth over belonging, truth over comfort, evolution over acceptance. And people like that are extremely rare. So here you are, standing at a crossroads you didn't ask to reach, facing a decision you didn't know you'd have to make. Because now that they've seen you, now that you've been flagged, now that you exist in their awareness, something has to happen next. They're not just going to watch forever. Eventually they're going to make contact. Eventually they're going to extend an offer or issue a warning. Eventually they're going to try to determine whether you're an ally or an obstacle. And you need to understand what's really being offered when that moment comes. Because it won't look like what you expect. They're not going to send someone in a suit with a briefcase. They're not going to make some dramatic recruitment pitch. They're not going to reveal themselves overtly. Instead, opportunities will appear. Doors will open that were closed before. Invitations will arrive that make no logical sense based on where you were yesterday. Resources will become available. Connections will materialize. Paths will clear that seemed blocked just weeks ago. And you'll have to decide, do I walk through these doors? Do I accept these opportunities? Do I align myself with the systems that are now courting my capacity? Because that's what's happening, whether you recognize it or not. You're being courted. Your capacity plus your awareness equals value, and value always attracts offers. They want to know if you can be incorporated into their structures, if your growth can be channeled into their goals, if your evolution can be harnessed for their purposes. And here's the thing. The offers won't feel like corruption. They won't look like selling out. They won't present as compromise. They'll look like opportunity, like recognition, like finally getting what you deserve, like the universe rewarding your hard work. The money will make sense, the positions will feel aligned, the partnerships will seem mutually beneficial. But underneath every offer is the same question. Are you willing to let us guide your capacity? Are you willing to let us frame your awareness? Are you willing to operate within our structure, even if that structure is what you've been learning to see beyond?